The wine glass hit the floor before I understood what my boy had said. Red spread across the white tablecloth like something bleeding out. I had the carving knife in my hand. Pot roast I'd been slow cooking since noon. And Tommy just kept talking. 9 years old, didn't know he'd set off a bomb. Is Mom's friend staying again tonight? He left his water bottle in the bathroom. My wife's face went the color of snow falling outside the window. Kayla, my oldest, she already knew. I could see it in how fast the blood drained from her cheeks. Madison looked confused. Tommy smiled up at me, innocent as Sunday morning. The silence, after that glass shattered, I can still hear it. That was December 12th. By April, the whole town of Millbrook would know why. But right then, I was just a 67-year-old man, learning that everyone at my dinner table had been living in my humiliation longer than I had. Denise recovered first, always was quick on her feet. She laughed, this brittle sound that didn't match anything happening in the room, and said, "Tommy, honey, Derek is just my trainer, from the gym. He stopped by to drop off my meal plan." My son looked at her, then at me, trying to figure out if he'd done something wrong. "Go upstairs," I said. "Quiet. All of you." They scattered. Madison first, then Kayla pulled Tommy by the hand. The stairs creaked under their weight. I set the carving knife down careful-like, because my hands wanted to shake, and I wasn't going to let them. Denise was already on her knees with paper towels soaking up the wine. Her hands were shaking, though. I watched them tremble as she pressed white paper to red liquid. "Howie, I can explain." "Don't." She looked up at me, tears starting now, right on cue. 23 years of marriage. I knew all her moves, but I wanted to believe this time was different. That's the thing about loyalty. It makes you stupid. "He's just a friend," she said. I swear to God. I've been working so hard to get healthy, and Derek's been helping me, and maybe I let the boundaries blur a little, but nothing happened. Nothing physical. The way she said physical, like there were degrees of betrayal, and she was only guilty of the lesser kind. Tommy said he was here, in our house. He dropped off a protein powder sample. She stood up, threw the wine-soaked towels in the trash, turned to face me with her chin up. "That's it. I'm sorry if it looked bad, but you're making something out of nothing." I wanted to believe her. That's the pathetic truth of it. I wanted to believe her so bad I could taste it, bitter as the coffee I'd forgotten on the counter that morning. "Your phone," I said. Let me see it." Her face changed. Just for a second, fear maybe, or calculation. Then the tears came harder. "You're going to do this? Check my phone like I'm some teenager after 23 years? If there's nothing to hide, it's the principle, Howie." She was crying for real now, or doing a damn good impression. I feel invisible in this marriage. I'm trying to take care of myself, to feel good about who I am, and you're never here. You're always at that garage. And now when I finally find something that makes me feel alive, you want to police it? There it was. My fault. Always came back to that. I heard a creak upstairs, one of the kids listening, probably Tommy, feeling like he'd broken something he couldn't fix. "We need help," Denise said, softer now. "Marriage counseling. I'll be completely transparent, phone, everything. But we need help, baby. I don't want to lose this." She stepped closer, put her hand on my chest right over my heart. I could smell her perfume. Something new, not the ivory soap she used to wear. Something expensive and floral that I didn't recognize. "Please," she whispered, "give me a chance to fix this." I should have said no. Should have walked out right then. But I looked at the Christmas tree in the corner. Tommy had hung his homemade ornaments that weekend, and I thought about what splitting up would do to them. Thought about my father, who stayed married to my mother for 47 years, through good times and bad. "Okay," I said, "counseling." She hugged me. I stood there with my arms at my sides, not hugging back, but not pulling away either. We went to bed in separate rooms that night. I lay there in the guest room, listening to her phone buzz at 2 a.m., then again at 2:15, then 2:30. I didn't get up to check. That was my first mistake. Morning came cold. December in Ohio, the kind of cold that gets in your bones and stays there. I made coffee at 5:30, like always. Stood at the kitchen window watching snow fall on Main Street. My father's garage sat 2 blocks down. Brennan's Auto and Repair, the sign he'd painted in 1963, still hanging out front. Tommy came down early. Couldn't sleep either, I guess. "Dad?" His voice small. "I'm sorry." "Nothing to be sorry for, buddy." "But Mom got mad, and you and Mom were fighting." I poured him some orange juice, set it on the table. "You told the truth. That's never wrong." He drank the juice in silence for a minute. Then, Derek left his water bottle in the upstairs bathroom, the blue one with his gym logo, and something cold settled in my stomach. "Show me." We went upstairs. Tommy pointed to the bathroom, stayed in the hallway like he didn't want to go in. I found the bottle behind the toilet. Expensive metal thing, probably $40. The kind with a wide mouth for protein shakes. I opened it to pour the water out, saw the engraving on the inside of the lid. To my champion. Dee stood there holding it while my coffee went cold downstairs. Heard Denise's shower turn on. Could go in there right now, show her what I found, make her explain this too, but I didn't. Knowing and accepting are two different countries, and I wasn't ready to cross that border yet. I requested our phone records the next day. Told the Verizon rep I was consolidating bills, needed to see usage. She didn't ask questions. They came in the mail 3 days later. I spread them on the workbench in my garage, late on a Tuesday night. The apartment above the shop was cold. Hadn't turned the heat on up there in years, but I needed the space. Needed to think without Denise in the next room. 217 calls in 4 months. Most of them 2-3 hours long. Started right after Thanksgiving. I highlighted them with yellow marker, watching a pattern emerge like rust on metal. Predictable, corrosive, spreading. Every Tuesday and Thursday, 9 p.m., that's when she said she had book club. I looked up Derek Cho on my phone. Titanium Athletic Club, assistant manager. His Instagram had 47 photos of himself at the gym, biceps, abs, that white tooth smile, motivational quotes about living your truth and becoming your best self. It's not one picture of anything he'd built with his hands. The calls peaked on December 10th. 2 days before Tommy asked his question at dinner, I sat there till past midnight, highlighting and circling, trying to find the pattern that would prove I was wrong. Mechanics think in systems, find the problem, trace it back to the source. But every line I drew led to the same place. Thursday came. Denise kissed my cheek at 8:45 p.m., said she'd be back by 11, book club at Janet's house. I waited 15 minutes, then followed. My truck's a 98 F-150. Sounds like a freight train, but she didn't notice. Too busy on her phone. I stayed 3 cars back all the way to Titanium Athletic Club, watched her park, check her makeup in the rear view. Derek came out of the building in gym clothes, carrying a duffel bag. They stood in the parking lot for a minute. Then he pulled her close, kissed her. Not a friendly kiss. The kind that tells you everything you were hoping wasn't true. I gripped the steering wheel hard enough that my knuckles went white. They got in his truck. A new Silverado, cherry red, the kind that costs more than I make in 6 months. Drove to the Budget Inn, 2 miles down Route 33, checked into room 107. I watched the lights go on behind the curtains, drove home, sat in my driveway for 20 minutes before I could trust my hands to be steady. Kayla was sitting on the porch when I got out, 17 years old, wearing my old flannel jacket over her pajamas. You followed her, she said. Not a question. I sat down next to her on the cold steps. Yeah. Dad, Her voice broke. She started crying, these quiet sobs that shook her whole body. I'm so sorry. I've known since August. I saw texts on her laptop. She left it open, and I saw them, and I didn't know how to tell you. I put my arm around her. She pressed her face against my shoulder like she used to when she was little. Not your burden, sweetheart. But I should have said something. You've been walking around not knowing, and everyone else? Madison doesn't know. But I think Tommy saw something. He's the one who... Tommy did right. You all did. I kissed the top of her head. Smelled her shampoo. The same brand since she was 12. This isn't on you kids. This is between your mother and me. We sat there while the temperature dropped. Finally she said, What are you gonna do? Don't know yet, but something. She wiped her eyes. Dad, there's more. Money stuff. Mr. Hedges. You know, from the bank. He tried to talk to me at the diner last week. Asked if you were okay. Said something about the accounts. The cold wasn't just outside anymore. I found him at the hardware store Saturday morning. Earl Hedges, 71 years old, managed the First National since before I was born. Worked with my father on the mortgage for the garage back in 1963. He was in the paint section, studying color samples like they were important, but he'd glanced at me twice already, waiting. I walked over. Morning, Earl. Howie. He set down the paint chips, looked around to make sure we were alone. Your daddy was a good man, honest man. Yes, sir, he was. Worked with him on that garage loan, shook hands, and his word was gold. Earl shifted his weight, uncomfortable. Howie, I can't tell you specifics. Bank confidentiality, you understand. But if I was you, I'd take a look at my statements. The college accounts especially. My stomach dropped. The kids' accounts? Can't say more than that. Just look at them. He squeezed my shoulder. Sorry, son. Wish I could do more. But he left me standing there in the paint aisle, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. I drove straight home. Denise had left for her training session. That's what she called them now. Not even pretending about book club anymore. I went to the basement where she kept the files. Found a stack of bank statements hidden behind the water heater, unopened. The last 6 months. Made fresh coffee, sat down at the kitchen table, opened the first envelope. By the third one, my hands weren't steady anymore. $27,000 gone. 3 accounts, one for each kid, Kayla's nursing school fund, Madison's art program money, Tommy's future, whatever that turned out to be. I'd been putting away $200 a month since each of them was born. My father had contributed too before the stroke took him in '85. All of it transferred to an account ending in 7734. 3 separate wire transfers over the last 3 months. 8,000, 9,800, 9,000. Every signature was Denise's. Some had mine forged below hers. I was still sitting there when she came home at 6. Heard her car in the driveway, her key in the lock. She came into the kitchen and stopped when she saw the statements spread across the table. "Sit down," I said. "Howie, sit down." She sat. I watched her face cycle through the options. Deny, deflect, attack. Settled on attack first. "You went through my files?" "That's private." I slid the December statement across the table. "What's account 7734? Her mouth opened, closed. "It's a joint account," she said finally. "For household expenses." "Try again. That's 27,000 from the kids' college funds. Wire transfers. Your signature, sometimes mine, except I never signed these." The deflection came next. "We needed the money, the roof, the furnace. We paid for those from checking. I have the receipts." I kept my voice level. Mechanics' hands, Mechanics' voice, steady even when the engine's blown. "Tell me what account 7734 is." She started crying. "It's a business opportunity. I was going to pay it all back, I swear. There's this franchise, a wellness center, and I just needed capital to get started. With Derek." Her face went white. "What? Is the business opportunity with Derek Cho? Your trainer? Your friend?" She stood up fast, chair scraping. "This is what you do? You spy on me? You violate my privacy? You make assumptions. I followed you Thursday, saw you at the Budget Inn." The room went quiet, except for the refrigerator humming. She sat back down, put her face in her hands. When she looked up, the tears were real this time. I could always tell the difference. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "God, Howie, I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. I felt invisible, and he made me feel seen, and it spiraled. But it's over. I ended it today. I swear to God, I ended it. The money, we can fix this. I'll get it back. The business thing was stupid. I know that now. I'll transfer it all back tomorrow." She reached across the table for my hand. I pulled away. "Please, I made a mistake, a huge mistake. But we can fix this." "I don't know if we can. We have to try." She was crying harder now. "For the kids. For us. Howie, She stopped, put her hand on her stomach. "I think I might be pregnant." Everything stopped. "What?" I wasn't going to say anything until I was sure. I missed my period. "I took a test yesterday, and it was positive, but I wanted to confirm with the doctor before I told you." And she looked up at me, mascara running. "That's why I wanted to fix things. We could start over. A fresh start." At 52, a pregnancy would be difficult, but possible. And I wanted to believe her so badly I let myself. She scheduled a doctor's appointment for the following week. Showed me the appointment card. January 22nd, doctor. Morrison, 2 p.m. She gave me her phone, let me scroll through messages. She deleted Derek's number right there in front of me, blocked him. We started marriage counseling, Tuesday evenings at 7 p.m. with Dr. Patricia Chen downtown. Denise said all the right things. Talked about communication gaps, about feeling neglected, about taking responsibility for her choices. She came home for dinner every night, helped Tommy with his homework, went to Madison's winter concert, smiled at me over coffee in the mornings. For 2 weeks, it felt like maybe we'd survive this. I let my guard down, started sleeping in our bedroom again, stopped checking her phone. When she touched my arm passing in the kitchen, I didn't pull away. Even Kayla seemed hopeful. Caught her smiling at breakfast when Denise made pancakes like she used to. Late January, I was organizing paperwork for taxes. Needed last year's medical receipts. Remembered, Denise kept them in her gym bag with all the insurance cards and pharmacy stuff. Her car was in the driveway. She'd gone to bed early, said she was tired. Morning sickness, she'd claimed. I went out to get the bag from the trunk. Found it buried under her yoga mat and sneakers. Reached inside for the receipt folder. My hand touched a prescription bottle instead. I pulled the bag into the garage, closed the door, turned on the workbench light. Birth control pills. Generic, CVS brand, prescription filled January 15th. Receipt stapled to the bag, refilled 3 days after she told me she was pregnant. I kept digging. Motel receipts, Budget Inn, 9 different dates going back to November. All paid on her credit card. More bank statements, transfers I didn't know about, smaller amounts but steady. 100 here, 200 there. At the bottom, wrapped in a towel, a flip phone. Cheap burner, the kind you buy at a gas station. I turned it on. Text messages between her and Derek. Hundreds of them. I scrolled back to January 14th. The day after she told me about the pregnancy. Derek, you tell him yet? Denise, not yet. Playing the pregnancy card first. Derek, LOL. Think he's dumb enough to believe it? Denise, he's dumb enough for anything. Derek, April in Scottsdale. Can't wait to be done with this shithole town. I kept reading. Couldn't stop. Every message worse than the last. Plans for a fitness franchise in Arizona. LLC paperwork already filed. Her cut would come from the divorce settlement when she got half the garage property. The final text was from that night. Derek, she tell you yet? We're thinking April in Scottsdale. I sat on the garage floor next to the evidence. Stayed there until 4 a.m., the concrete cold through my jeans, the space heater rattling in the corner. Denise came looking for me at 4:30, wrapped in her bathrobe. Found me with the phone in my hand. Her face went white. She tried to say something. Don't remember what. I held up my hand. Get out of my house. Now. She opened her mouth, closed it. Looked at the gym bag, at the phone, at my face. Howie, please. Now. She went. I sat there until dawn, thinking about what my father used to say. Some lies are so big, they break the liar too. Except Denise didn't look broken. She just looked gone. She didn't leave. Came down at 7 that morning, like nothing happened. Found me, still in the garage, still holding that phone. She'd put on makeup, fixed her hair, armor on. If you'd been a better husband, you stole from our kids' college funds. That money is technically mine too. We're married. Community property. I stood up slow. My knees hurt from sitting on concrete all night. You forged my signature on wire transfers. She shifted tactics, voice rising now. You were emotionally abusive. Always at that garage, never home. I had to beg you to talk to me, to spend time with me. Do you know what that does to a person? I recited the facts, calm. The way you explain to a customer why their engine's blown. I worked 60-hour weeks so you could stay home with the kids like you wanted. Never missed a recital. Never missed a game. Gave you every paycheck. But you never talked to me. She was screaming now. You're boring, Howie. You're old. Derek makes me feel alive. He sees me. Tommy appeared in the doorway, frozen, still in his pajamas. Denise didn't notice. Kept going. You think I wanted to spend my life in this dead-end town with a man who smells like motor oil? I settled for you because I thought you'd be stable. But you're just... Mom? She spun around. Saw him standing there. Tommy's face crumpled. He ran back upstairs. I brushed past her. Get out of my house before I say something I can't take back. She grabbed my arm. Where am I supposed to go? Don't care. Your mother's, Derek's, a motel. I pulled free. But you're not staying here. We'll see what my lawyer says about that. She left around noon. Took 2 suitcases. Didn't say goodbye to the kids. 3 days later, a process server came to the garage. Divorce papers. She was demanding half the property value of the garage, spousal support, primary custody of all 3 children. The petition claimed I'd been emotionally abusive and financially controlling throughout the marriage, that I'd created a hostile environment and caused her severe emotional distress. I read it twice, then filed it in the desk drawer next to my father's old ledgers. My brother Danny showed up on a Wednesday. Hadn't seen him in 20 years, not since we fought over selling the garage back in 2003. He wanted to cash out, move on. I wanted to keep Pop's legacy alive. He drove up from Cincinnati in a black Audi, looked out of place in his suit and tie, stepped into the garage bay where I was changing oil on Mrs. Patterson's Camry. Howie. I straightened up, wiped my hands on a rag. Danny? Heard you were having some trouble. Tom Riley called me, said he saw Denise with some trainer half her age. Small towns. Everyone knows everything. It's handled. Is it? He looked around the garage. Same tools Pop had used. Same concrete floor. Same oil stains. Because I heard she's trying to take this place in the divorce. I didn't answer. Went back to the oil pan. Danny sighed. Pop didn't raise us to let women like that win. Pop's been dead 40 years. Doesn't make him wrong. Danny pulled out his phone. I'm a lawyer now. Corporate shit mostly, but I know how to read contracts and filings. You got the divorce papers? I pointed to the office. He came back 20 minutes later with a legal pad covered in notes. She filed an LLC in Arizona, November 1st, Vitality Fitness Partners. Registered agents are Denise Brennan and Derek Cho. The oil drained into the pan. Steady drip. Business address in Scottsdale. Danny continued. Fitness franchise application documents. And here's the interesting part. Business partner is Marcus Webb. That name I knew? The developer trying to buy this property? The same. Danny set down the pad. Howie, this wasn't an affair that got out of hand. This was a plan. They were going to get you to sell the garage or take it in the divorce, use that money to fund the franchise, and disappear to Arizona. I tightened the oil plug. I'm saying they might have been planning to force the sale. Insurance fraud, maybe arson. And he held up his phone. I made some calls. Webb's been cited twice for suspicious fires on properties he wanted to redevelop. Nothing stuck, but the pattern's there. The Camry's engine ticked as it cooled. What do I do? You fight, Danny said, and you let me help you. February 1st, I moved into the apartment above the garage. Just temporary, I told myself. Until things settled. The space was small, kitchenette, bathroom, one room with a futon and a TV that got 3 channels. My father had lived here when he first built the business, back when my mother was pregnant with Danny, and they couldn't afford a house yet. Hadn't been used in 20 years. Dust everywhere, water-stained ceiling, radiator that clanked like chains. Tommy helped me carry boxes up the narrow stairs. Clothes, coffee maker, sleeping bag from the camping trips we used to take. He tried not to cry, but I saw his eyes getting wet. Just for a little while, buddy. Can I stay with you? Denise's lawyer had sent a custody arrangement. The girls would stay with her at her mother's house, for stability. Tommy could choose. Yeah, I said. You can stay with me. We ate canned soup for dinner that night. Tomato, heated on the hot plate. Sat on the futon watching the local news with the sound off. Dad? Tommy set down his bowl. Is it my fault? Because of what I said at dinner? I put my arm around him, pulled him close. No, son. Truth doesn't break things. Lies do. He fell asleep against my shoulder. I carried him to the sleeping bag, tucked him in, stood at the window watching snow fall on Main Street. Lights on in the houses down the block, families together, warm kitchens, dinner smells, maybe someone doing homework at the table. I was completely alone for the first time in 23 years. My phone buzzed. Email from Denise's lawyer, demanding financial records for spousal support calculation, 3 years of tax returns, bank statements, business accounts. They wanted my father's garage. The place where I learned to be a man, where I planned to teach my son the same. That's when the quiet part of me went quiet for good. And something else woke up. February came in cold, ice storms that knocked out power twice, the kind of weather that makes you wonder if spring's just a story people tell to get through winter. I stopped sleeping right. 3 a.m., eyes open, staring at water stains on the ceiling, shapes like countries I'd never visit. By 5:30, I'd give up, make coffee in the dark, stand at the window, watching Main Street wake up. The garage work became mechanical, Mrs. Chen's oil change, Bob Morrison's brake pads. I did the jobs right, my hands still knew what to do, but my mind was somewhere else, somewhere cold and empty. Customers were fewer now, word had spread. Some folks didn't know what to say, so they took their cars to the Jiffy Lube, out by the highway instead. Easier than making conversation with a man whose wife had made a fool of him. Lunch was coffee. Sometimes I'd heat up soup and forget about it until the pot burned. I organized my tools obsessively. Socket sets by size, then by brand, then by age. Wrenches lined up perfect smallest to largest. Screwdrivers sorted by head type. My father's old toolbox cleaned and recleaned until the metal shone. When I finished, I'd start over. Different system, alphabetical, by frequency of use, anything to keep my hands busy. An orange cat showed up in the garage one morning. Skinny thing, probably dumped by someone moving away. I gave it some of the tuna from my sandwich. It stayed. Started talking to that cat. Told it things I couldn't tell anyone else. How I'd wake up reaching for someone who wasn't there. How I'd forget Denise was gone and set the table for 2 before remembering. How the silence in the apartment was so thick it felt like drowning. The cat would purr and rub against my leg. Simple comfort, no judgment, no pity. Tommy came by after school every day, did his homework at the workbench while I worked. Sometimes he'd hand me tools. Learning the names, the purposes, 10mm socket, Phillips head, torquey wrench. He didn't talk much. Neither did I. Madison called twice. I let it go to voicemail both times. Couldn't explain that I wasn't okay when she needed me to be. Kayla texted, "Dad, please answer. We're worried." I sent back, "I'm fine. I wasn't fine." February 28th, I realized I hadn't eaten in 2 days. Couldn't remember the last time I'd showered. My father's flannel shirt, the one I'd been wearing for 3 days straight, smelled like sweat and motor oil and something sour. Tommy had asked if we could go to Lou's Diner for breakfast tomorrow. I'd said yes, but I was planning to cancel. Easier to stay in the garage, away from people and their careful sympathy. Thought about calling the developer, Marcus Webb, just selling the garage, taking whatever money I could get, moving somewhere nobody knew me. Indiana, maybe. Kentucky, somewhere I could be invisible, would be easier than fighting. Tommy came to the apartment after school the next day, climbed the stairs slower than usual, set his backpack down without unzipping it. "You okay, buddy?" He shook his head, wouldn't look at me. I had turned off the space heater, sat on the futon, waited. Tommy's face crumpled. He started crying, these big, gulping sobs that shook his whole body. Hey. I pulled him onto the futon, held him. "What's wrong?" "Kids at school?" He couldn't get it out. crying too hard. I waited, rubbed his back the way I used to when he was little and couldn't sleep. Finally, they're saying mean things about you and Mom and Mrs. Patterson asked if everything's okay at home because I fell asleep in class and I didn't know what to say. That's okay. You don't have to explain anything to anybody. And I wet the bed. That he was whispering now, ashamed. Twice this week. I haven't done that since I was 5. My heart broke clean in half. And it's all my fault. He looked up at me, face blotchy and wet. I broke our family. If I hadn't said anything at dinner, Mom would still be home, and you wouldn't be living here, and Madison wouldn't be mad all the time. And stop. I held his face in my hands, made him look at me. Listen to me, Tommy. You told the truth. That's what I taught you. Truth matters. You didn't break anything, son. Mom did. But everything's wrong now. Yeah, it is. I wiped his face with my sleeve. But that's not on you. You hear me? None of this is on you. He nodded. Didn't believe me, but nodded anyway. We heated up soup. He picked at it. Finally fell asleep on the futon while I sat in the office chair, watching him breathe. My phone buzzed. Kayla, Dad, Madison's not eating, like, at all. And I heard Mom and Derek talking about taking Tommy back to court. You have to fight. Please. I looked at my boy, sleeping. 9 years old, wetting the bed, carrying guilt that wasn't his to carry. Looked at the text from Kayla. My oldest daughter, 17, trying to hold everything together while I fell apart. Realized I'd been selfish, wallowing in my own pain while my kids suffered. They needed me functional. Not broken, but I didn't know how to start. 3 a.m. I gave up on sleep, went down to the garage workshop, couldn't stay in that apartment another minute, walls closing in. Tommy's quiet breathing, a reminder of everything I was failing to protect. My father's tools hung on the pegboard. Organized perfect now, everything in its place. I sat at his old workbench, the one he'd built from scrap lumber in 1963. Ran my hands over the wood, worn smooth by 40 years of use. Thought about selling, about leaving, about how much easier it would be to just disappear. Held the garage keys in my hand. 5 of them on a ring. Front door, bay doors, office, apartment, supply closet. Control over this little piece of the world. Could hand them to Marcus Webb tomorrow, take his money, walk away. Thought about Tommy's face. Will you still teach me about cars, Dad? Thought about Kayla's text. You have to fight. Thought about my father's rough hands, teaching me to change my first spark plug when I was 8. His voice. Some things are worth the trouble, Howie. You figure out which things, you'll be all right. Thought about Derek's text on that burner phone. Dumb enough for anything. Something hardened in my chest. Something cold. And clear. I wasn't running. Not from my town, not from Pop's garage, not from my kids. Didn't know how to fight yet, but I knew I would. Outside, a truck engine. Headlights cutting through the bay window. I looked at my phone. 4:17 a.m. Thought it was Danny again. Come to check on me. Opened the bay door. Lou Brennan stood in the snow. 71 years old, wearing her winter coat over her diner uniform. She held a manila envelope under one arm and 2 coffee cups from the diner in her hands. Morning, Howie. Her breath made clouds in the cold. We need to talk about what this town's been seeing. She handed me a coffee. Black, 2 sugars, the way I'd been drinking it since I was 16. Walked into the garage like she owned the place. Set the envelope on the workbench. Pulled up a stool. Your daddy was a good man, she said. Did right by Millbrook. Helped me get the loan for my diner back in '81 when the bank said a divorced woman wasn't a good risk. We remember things like that. Lou, I appreciate... Hush, I'm talking. She opened the envelope. We've been watching. Watching what? Everything. She spread the contents across the workbench. Photographs, handwritten notes, a timeline going back 4 months. Denise's car at Titanium Athletic Club, dated and time-stamped. Sheriff Morrison's neat print, November 3rd, 9:47 p.m., December 1st, 9:23 p.m. Budget in receipts with license plate numbers. More photos. Denise and Derek at the Riverside Tavern, at the coffee shop in the Kroger parking lot. All documented, all witnessed. The morning coffee crowd, Lou said. Me, Morrison, Earl Hedges, Janet from the post office, Bob from the hardware store. We weren't gossiping, honey. We were protecting Pop's boy. I stared at the evidence. A month of surveillance. Careful, organized, everything I'd need. The people I thought were avoiding me were building a case. Lou squeezed my shoulder. You're not alone in this, Howie. You never were. Lou spread everything out under the work light, organized like a case file. I keep an order pad at the diner, she said. Write down times, dates, who orders what. Old habit from 40 years in the business. Started noticing Denise's car at the athletic club. Odd hours. Tuesday and Thursday nights, same time every week. She pointed to a page of neat handwriting. Dates going back to November. Nov 3, 9:47 p.m. Nov 10, 9:52 p.m. Nov 17, 9:38 p.m. Sheriff Morrison, you know he's retired, still comes in for coffee every morning at 6. He saw them at the Budget Inn, took some photos. She tapped a stack of printed pictures. Not because he's nosy, because he remembers what your daddy did when his son got in trouble back in '94. Pop vouched for the boy, gave him a job, kept him out of jail. More notes. Earl Hedges documenting unusual financial activity. Janet from the post office noticing packages to Arizona being mailed from my house. Business documents. She'd seen the return addresses. Bob from the hardware store, keeping track of when Denise bought a burner phone in December. How many people? I asked. 12 of us. Regular coffee crowd mostly. We meet every morning at 6. Started comparing notes around Christmas. Lou pulled out a timeline. Everything compiled, cross-referenced. We weren't sure what to do with it, felt like we were overstepping, but then we heard about the divorce papers, about her trying to take the garage. I couldn't speak. Just stared at months of evidence gathered by people I'd thought were avoiding me. There's more. Lou pulled out another folder. Marcus Webb, the developer trying to buy your garage. He's business partners with Derek on that Arizona franchise. We think this whole thing might be a real estate scheme dressed up as an affair. How do we prove that? Already called your brother. He's got ideas. Danny showed up that evening with his lawyer bag and a 12-pack of Coke. Set up in the garage office like he was preparing for trial. Corporate law is boring as hell, he said, opening his laptop. This is the most interesting work I've done in 5 years. Lou stayed. Tommy sat at the workbench, doing math homework, listening to everything. I wanted him to see how adults solve problems. How you fought without fists. Danny walked us through it. Divorce will be ugly but winnable with this evidence. Custody's yours. Affair plus financial theft equals unfit parent. That's standard. He pointed to a document on screen. Real goal is stopping the garage property grab. Town council votes on the variance March 15th. Webb needs that variance to redevelop. If they deny it, the garage stays zoned as is. Can't be sold for his project. So we go to the council meeting? I asked. We do better than that. We tell the truth, publicly. Danny leaned back in the chair. Emotion loses in court, Howie. Evidence wins. We have evidence. 12 witnesses, photographs, financial documents. We lay it out calm and factual. No crying, no yelling. Just the truth. Lou nodded. Council meets the third Thursday every month. Community center. It's public record. Anyone can speak. They'll try to say it's a private marital dispute, Danny said. But when we connect Denise to Derek, Derek to Webb, Webb to the property variance, it becomes relevant to the town's business. Tommy looked up from his homework. Like showing your work in math? Exactly like that, buddy. As Danny smiled at him. Show the work, get the right answer. I thought about standing up in front of the whole town. Thought about Lou and Morrison and Earl and all of them knowing every detail of my humiliation. I don't know if I can do that. You can, Lou said, because it's not about revenge. It's about protecting what your father built and protecting other folks who might get scammed by Webb and his partners. Danny pulled out more papers. Found these this morning. Arizona LLC filing. Vitality Fitness Partners, incorporated November 1st. 6 weeks before Tommy's dinner table question. He spread them out. Corporate documents, franchise applications, wire transfers that matched the timeline. This wasn't an affair that became a business plan, Danny said. The business plan required your garage equity. The affair was access. I felt rage crystallize into something sharp and clear. My wife hadn't fallen out of love with me. She'd been dismantling my life piece by piece, and I'd been handing her the tools. After Lou left and Tommy fell asleep on the office couch, Danny and I sat in the garage bay sharing a Coke, like when we were kids, and Pop would let us stay up late helping him finish a job. I was wrong, Danny said. About selling the garage back in 2003, I thought moving on meant letting go. Didn't understand what legacy meant. I was stubborn, held a grudge too long. Then Pop would be proud of what you're planning. What am I planning? Standing up, Danny looked around the garage. Same pegboard Pop had installed, same concrete floor he'd poured. Pop used to say, a man's measure isn't what he keeps together, but what he builds from what breaks. Took me 3 years in a divorce to understand what he meant. You got divorced? 3 years ago? She cheated with her yoga instructor. Cliché as hell. He laughed, but it was bitter. Learned that fixing broken things matters less than building new things on honest foundations. We sat quiet for a while. The space heater ticking, wind rattling the bay doors. Council meetings March 15th, Danny said. 2 weeks. We need to prepare your testimony. Just facts. 5 minutes, maximum. Let the evidence speak. And if they don't believe me, they'll believe Lou. They'll believe Morrison. They'll believe 12 witnesses and a paper trail. He stood up. Get some sleep. I'll be back tomorrow. We got work to do. He paused at the door. One more thing. Kayla called me yesterday. She has something. A recording. Says it's bad. Real bad. She's scared to tell you. A recording of what? She wouldn't say. Just that she's been documenting things on her phone for 3 months. Said you need to hear it before the council meeting. He left. I sat there thinking about my 17-year-old daughter, gathering evidence while I was falling apart, protecting her family while her father couldn't. Texted her, come by tomorrow after school. Whatever it is, we'll handle it. She responded immediately, okay. I'm sorry, Dad, nothing to be sorry for. I looked at the timeline Lou had left, the photographs, the dossier that proved I wasn't crazy, wasn't paranoid, wasn't making something out of nothing. The people I thought weren't paying attention had been gathering evidence all along. Even my 17-year-old daughter was braver than I'd been. March came in quiet, snow melting to slush, then mud. The kind of in-between weather that can't decide if it's winter or spring. Danny turned the garage office into a war room. Timeline taped to the wall. Photographs, dates, bank transactions organized chronologically. November, LLC, filing on the left. December, affair begins. January, fake pregnancy. February, wire transfers. All of it leading to March 15th. He taught me how to write testimony. State facts, state evidence, state impact. No adjectives, no emotion. I'd write, my wife's devastating betrayal destroyed our family. He'd cross it out. Cut devastating betrayal. Just say, discovered unauthorized removal of funds from children's college accounts on January 28th. That sounds boring. Boring wins in court. Emotion makes you look unstable. Facts make you look credible. Lou brought more witness statements. Notarized now, official. Sheriff Morrison's were typed up proper, with case numbers from his old reports. Earl Hedges provided what bank documentation he could within legal limits. Couldn't give me Denise's records, but he could confirm dates of unusual activity. Tommy helped tape things to the wall, ask questions. Why do we need all this? Because truth needs proof, I said. Or it's just a story. We practiced my testimony. 5 minutes, Danny timed it. I kept stumbling over words, forgetting what came next. You're overthinking. Danny sat on the desk edge. Pretend you're explaining to a customer why their transmission's shot. Just the facts. I tried again. Got through it without stopping, but my voice shook. Better, he said. You've got this. I hadn't talked to more than 5 people at once since my father's funeral. The thought of standing in front of the whole town. I don't know if I can do this. You can, Tommy said. Small voice from the workbench. You're the bravest person I know. I wasn't brave. But maybe I could pretend long enough to get through 5 minutes. Kayla came by after school on the 14th, Thursday, one day before the council meeting. She sat in the office chair, wouldn't make eye contact. Danny was there too, laptop open, ready to take notes. Whatever it is, I said. It's okay? It's not okay. Her voice cracked. I should have told you sooner. She pulled out her phone, newer model, bigger than mine. I started recording conversations in November. After I saw the texts on Mom's laptop, I felt like I needed proof. In case adults didn't believe me. How many recordings? 17. She scrolled through her files. Most are just them talking about the affair, planning when to meet, lying about where she was going. But one, she stopped, looked at me. Dad, one from January is different. And she plugged her phone into Danny's laptop, found the file. January 8th, 7:47 p.m. I was in my room. Door cracked. They were in the living room. They didn't know I was home. She pressed play. Denise's voice first. Thinking Scottsdale by May, if everything goes smooth. Derek, insurance payout would be cleaner than divorce. Silence on the recording. Denise, what do you mean? Derek, garage fire, electrical, old building happens all the time. Claims $200K easy. Your husband rebuilds somewhere smaller or retires. We're in Arizona in 3 months instead of waiting for divorce to settle. Denise laughing. Derek, that's arson. Derek, that's opportunity. But only if we do it before he gets suspicious. More silence. Denise, you're crazy. Derek, crazy smart. Think about it. March 1st, when he's at that parts supplier in Columbus. I've already looked. Whole back section's just wood and paper. Couple rags soaked in mineral spirits near the wiring. Boom, accident. Denise, we could go to jail. Derek, only if we're stupid about it, which we won't be. The recording ended. Kayla was crying. They didn't do it, obviously. But they talked about it. I've been so scared, Dad. What if they tried? What if you were in there? I pulled her into a hug. She pressed her face against my shoulder like she did when she was little. You did the right thing, I said. You protected us. I should have told you in January. No, you were scared. You were 17. This shouldn't be your burden. I held her at arm's length. But you carried it anyway. That's brave, Kayla. That's real brave. Danny had gone pale. He rewound the recording, listened again, made notes. This is conspiracy to commit insurance fraud, he said finally. Maybe attempted arson, depending on whether they took preparatory steps. This isn't divorce court anymore, Howie. This is criminal. What do we do? We play it at the council meeting, then we give it to the county prosecutor. He looked at Kayla. You okay with that? The whole town will hear it. She wiped her eyes, nodded. I want everyone to know what they are. After she left, Danny and I sat in silence for a long time. My daughter was carrying this weight for 2 months, I said. While I was collapsed in self-pity, she was protecting her family. She's a good kid. Well, she's a better person than I am. She learned it from somewhere. Danny closed his laptop. Get some rest. Tomorrow's going to be long. I didn't sleep that night. Sat in the apartment rehearsing my testimony, over and over. Dates, amounts, evidence, no emotion, just facts. Tommy was asleep on the futon. I'd tucked him in hours ago, but I could still hear his question from earlier. Dad, what if nobody believes you? Then at least I'll have told the truth. Sometimes that's all a man's got. He'd thought about that. Then, will Mom be there? Don't know, buddy. I'm glad you're fighting now. I stood at the window. Snow finally melted. March thaw coming early. Community Center was visible 2 blocks down Main Street. Tomorrow night at 7, the council would vote on Marcus Webb's variance request. And I'd stand up in front of everyone I'd known my whole life and lay out every humiliation. My phone buzzed. Danny, Kayla's recording is worse than we thought. They discussed specific timing. March 1st, when you'd be at Parts Supplier. They scouted it. This is premeditated. Another text. Prosecutor will want this. This is serious, Howie. I texted back. Good. Watched the snow melt under the streetlights. Thought about my father standing up to a corrupt building inspector in 1907, risking his business license to do what was right. Thought about Tommy asking what if nobody believed me. Realized belief doesn't matter. Truth does. By tomorrow night, everybody in Millbrook would know everything. And either they'd stand with me or I'd stand alone. But I'd still stand. The community center used to be a church. Still had the wooden pews, the high ceiling, the smell of old hymnals and lemon oil. Town council met there 3rd Thursday of every month. Had since before I was born. Danny and I got there at 6:45. The variance hearing was scheduled for 7. Already 20 people in the seats. Lou and her morning coffee crowd down front. Mrs. Patterson, Tommy's teacher. The Chins from across the street. Bob Morrison, not the sheriff, his son, the one who ran the feed store. Word had spread. Tommy sat between me and Danny, wearing the button-up shirt we'd bought at Goodwill. Too big in the shoulders, but he'd insisted on dressing up. It's important, he'd said. More people filing in. The council members took their seats at the front table. Mayor Perkins in the center. 70 years old, knew my father back when. He nodded at me. Couldn't read his expression. At 6:55, Denise arrived. Her lawyer came in first. Doug Stanford drove a Mercedes, had an office in the county seat. She followed behind him, wearing a black dress, hair perfect, makeup done like she was going somewhere nice instead of facing her lies. She saw me, saw the crowd. Her face went pale. Took a seat in the back with Doug, whispering urgent things in her ear. Derek showed up at 6:58. Gym clothes, track pants, and a Titanium Athletic Club hoodie, arms crossed, leaning against the back wall like this was beneath him. That smirk on his face. 7 o'clock? Mayor Perkins banged the gavel. March 15th Town Council meeting. We're here to discuss the variance request for 412 Main Street, currently Brennan's Auto and Repair, to allow commercial redevelopment by Webb Development, LLC. He looked at the front row. Mr. Webb? Marcus Webb stood, 50-ish, suit and tie, slicked back hair. Looked like every developer I'd ever seen, the kind who saw buildings instead of history. Thank you, Mayor. As outlined in our proposal, the current single-story automotive garage would be demolished to make way for a 3-story, mixed-use development. Retail on the ground floor, residential above. The property owner, he glanced at Denise, Mrs. Denise Brennan, is willing to sell pending divorce settlement and variance approval. He talked for 10 minutes. Tax revenue, downtown revitalization, progress. The words people use when they want to erase something that matters. Mayor Perkins listened, made notes. Finally, any objections to the variance? I stood up. I have concerns, Mayor. The room went quiet. Perkins nodded. Howie Brennan, property owner, you're recognized. I walked to the podium, hands shaking, unfolded my typed statement. 2 pages, double-spaced, just facts like Danny taught me. Looked out at the room, faces I'd known my whole life. Some sympathetic, some curious, some uncomfortable, like they'd rather be anywhere else. Found Tommy, he gave me a thumbs up. I started reading. On December 12th, I discovered my wife Denise was having an affair with Derek Cho, an employee of Titanium Athletic Club. Voice steady, just facts. Phone records show 217 calls between November and January, totaling approximately 400 hours of contact. Read the dates, the times, no emotion, just data. On January 28th, I discovered 3 unauthorized wire transfers from my children's college savings accounts, totaling $27,000. Transfers were made to a joint account opened by Mrs. Brennan and Mr. Cho in November. Denise's lawyer stood. Mayor, this is a private marital dispute. Let him finish, Doug. And I kept reading. On November 1st, Mrs. Brennan and Mr. Cho filed articles of incorporation in Arizona for Vitality Fitness Partners, LLC. Business partner listed, Marcus Webb, the developer requesting this variance. Webb shifted in his seat. The timeline suggests a coordinated plan to acquire this property through divorce settlement, then sell for commercial redevelopment to fund a business venture in Arizona. I folded the paper, looked at Perkins. My father built this garage in 1963. It's been family-owned for 62 years. I have 3 children who were supposed to inherit it. Instead, their college funds were stolen to finance a scheme that required destroying their grandfather's legacy. Sat down, hands still shaking. Mayor Perkins cleared his throat. Mr. Webb, you want to respond? Webb stood up fast. This is a personal vendetta. Mr. Brennan's marital problems have nothing to do with legitimate commercial development. Lou Brennan stood up in the front row. Mayor, may I speak? Perkins hesitated. Lou, this is irregular. So is lying to a whole town. She walked to the podium. 71 years old in her diner uniform, carrying a folder. I run Main Street Diner, have for 43 years. Part of running a diner is noticing things. She opened the folder. Starting November 3rd, I noticed Denise Brennan's car at Titanium Athletic Club every Tuesday and Thursday night, 9 to 11 p.m. I documented the dates. She held up her order pad, showed the council. Sheriff Morrison, retired Sheriff Morrison, noticed Mrs. Brennan and Mr. Cho at the Budget Inn multiple times. He photographed the vehicles. Lou pulled out pictures, set them on the table. We weren't gossiping. We were protecting one of our own. Sheriff Morrison stood, walked forward. Mayor, I've got 23 years in law enforcement. I know evidence when I see it. This wasn't an affair. This was a conspiracy. One by one, they stood. Earl Hedges. I observed irregular financial activity that concerned me professionally. Janet, from the post office. I saw business documents being mailed to Arizona addresses from the Brennan residence. Bob, from hardware. I sold Mrs. Brennan a prepaid phone in December, cash purchase. 12 people, each adding a piece. The pattern so clear, it couldn't be ignored. Derek pushed off from the wall, started toward the door. Morrison moved to block it. Derek, you should stay. For what? This isn't a trial. Not yet, Morrison said. Mayor Perkins banged the gavel. Mr. Cho, sit down. Derek looked at Denise, at her lawyer, at the council. I'm out. This is crazy. He left. Door slamming behind him. Murmurs through the room. Perkins turned to Denise. Mrs. Brennan, you want to address any of this? Doug leaned over, whispered to her. She shook her head. My client declines to comment at this time. Fair enough. Perkins looked at me. Mr. Brennan, anything else? I looked at Danny. He stood holding his phone. Mayor, with the council's permission, I have a recording made by Howie's daughter in January. It's relevant to the character of this proposed business partnership. Doug shot up. Objection. This isn't court, Doug. Perkins leaned forward. I want to hear it. Danny connected his phone to the portable speaker we'd brought. Press play. The recording filled the room. Denise's voice. Thinking Scottsdale by May if everything goes smooth. As Derek. Insurance payout would be cleaner than divorce. The conversation played out. Every word. The arson discussion. The timeline. March 1st when I'd be in Columbus. Mineral spirits and wiring. Denise gasped. Tried to stand. Doug pulled her back down. When it ended, the silence was absolute. Mayor Perkins looked like he'd aged 10 years. Mrs. Brennan, that's your voice? She couldn't speak. Just sat there, face white. Mr. Cho has left the building, so I can't ask him. Perkins turned to the council. I think we've heard enough. Motion to vote on the variance. So moved, said Councilwoman Hayes. Second, from Councilman Porter. All in favor of denying the variance for 412 Main Street? 5 hands went up, unanimous. Variance denied. Property remains zoned residential/small commercial. No redevelopment permitted. The gavel came down. Furthermore, I'm referring this matter to the county prosecutor's office for review of possible fraud and conspiracy. Denise stood, tried to walk out. People stared, not angry, just quiet, disappointed. The way a town looks at someone who broke their trust. She hurried out the side door. I stayed seated. Tommy next to me, holding my hand. People approached after, handshakes, shoulder pats. Good for you, Howie. Your pop would be proud. About damn time someone stood up to Webb. Lou hugged me. Your daddy's smiling down, honey. Tommy looked up at me. Did we win, Dad? We told the truth, son. That's different than winning, but it's better. Outside in the parking lot, Danny's phone buzzed. County prosecutor wanted a meeting Monday morning. Emergency custody hearing set for Tuesday. Denise's lawyer already filing withdrawal from the case. Down the street, Derek's red Silverado headed for the highway, running. Danny put his phone away. The real fight, the legal one, is just starting. I know. You scared? I thought about standing in front of that room, thought about 12 people who had my back, thought about my daughter's recording, my son's hand in mine, my brother next to me. No, I said. I'm not scared anymore. You can't shame a man who's already stood up in front of his whole town and laid out the truth. The worst was over. Everything after was just paperwork. The custody hearing lasted 20 minutes. Judge Patterson, no relation to Tommy's teacher, looked over the evidence, the affair, documentation, the financial theft, the recording of arson discussion. Denise's lawyer had withdrawn, so she represented herself, standing there in a wrinkled blouse saying she'd made mistakes but loved her children. Mrs. Brennan, the judge said, you stole from your children's education funds to finance a business venture with your paramour. You discussed burning down your husband's property for insurance money. That's not a mistake. That's a pattern of criminal behavior. Full custody to me. Supervised visitation for Denise. 2 hours every other Saturday at the public library. She didn't fight it, just signed the papers and left. Divorce settlement came a week later. Standard asset split, but she had to repay the $27,000 to the college accounts from her portion. Took most of what she was getting. The garage stayed in my name. Never been joint property anyway, inherited from my father. Danny handled the prosecutor meetings. Criminal charges filed against both Denise and Derek. Conspiracy to commit insurance fraud. Derek's lawyer was negotiating a plea deal. Denise took hers first. Restitution, 3 years probation, community service, no jail time. She got off light, Danny said. Don't care. Long as she pays the money back and stays away from the kids. He gave me updates I didn't ask for. Denise had moved to Phoenix with her mother. Derek was there too, but different addresses. The fitness franchise deal fell through. Webb backed out after the council meeting. Didn't want the publicity. They were both working at separate 24-hour fitness locations. Broke, bitter. I felt nothing hearing it. Not satisfaction, not vindication, just empty where the anger used to be. Danny packed up to head back to Cincinnati in late March. You good? He asked. Getting there. I'll be back next month. Been thinking about looking at property here. Maybe open a small practice. And I looked at him. Millbrook needs a good lawyer. And I need to be closer to family. He put his hand on my shoulder, squeezed. 20 years is long enough to be stubborn. Yeah, it is. We hugged. First time since we were kids. After he left, I stood in the garage looking at the space. Needed to figure out what came next. Couldn't just fix cars and wait for things to feel normal again. Normal was gone. Had to build something new. My father ran an apprentice program from 1965 to 1980, taught kids whose dads weren't around or whose families couldn't afford trade school. 15 years, maybe 40 kids learned to work on cars in this garage. Some became mechanics. Some just learned that they could fix things if they had the right tools and someone to teach them. I reopened it the first Saturday in April. 3 kids. Tommy, of course. Then Marcus Chen, 11 years old, being raised by his grandmother after his parents died in a car accident. And Sarah Morrison, 13, daughter of a single mom who worked 2 jobs and couldn't afford after-school care. Saturday mornings, 8 to noon, teaching the basics. Oil changes, tire rotation, how to check brake pads, how to read a dipstick. Patient instruction, the way my father taught me. You listening, Marcus? Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, always. Yes, sir, Mr. Brennan. Just Howie's fine. And Tommy was good at it. Careful hands, paid attention, asked questions. The other 2 watched him, learned from watching. Lou brought coffee and pastries every Saturday at 9. Set them on the workbench, stayed to chat. Sometimes she'd sweep the floor or organize receipts, making herself useful. Danny visited once a month, helped the kids with homework, brought pizza for lunch. Kayla came on weekends, started doing the bookkeeping, managing appointments. Turned out she was good with numbers, organized like her grandfather. Talking about business school now, instead of nursing. Madison showed up one Sunday with paint and brushes, asked if she could do a mural on the sidewall. I said sure. Took her 3 weekends. Spring flowers, tools arranged like art, my father's name in careful letters, Harold Pop Brennan, 1963-1985. Below it, legacy built on honest work. The family was reconstituting, different shape now. Brothers instead of strangers, neighbors instead of just customers. Chosen relationships filling the spaces blood family left empty. April 20th, Saturday morning. Sun coming through the open bay doors, that clean spring light that makes everything look new. Tommy and I were working on a timing belt replacement, 96 Ford Ranger, belonged to Janet from the post office, advanced job, but he was ready. Old country station playing on the radio, Merle Haggard singing about Mama's broken heart, smell of motor oil and fresh coffee from Lou's thermos. Earth thawing outside, that rich dirt smell mixing with the garage smells I'd known my whole life. Tommy's hands were steady on the belt. Careful, feeling for the tension like I'd taught him. That's it, I said. Not too tight. You want to feel it, not force it. He completed the installation. Perfect. We closed everything up. Moment of truth. Go ahead, I said. Turn the key. Tommy climbed into the driver's seat, turned the ignition. Engine started on the first try, ran smooth. No knock, no miss, no hesitation. Both of us smiled. We sat on the tailgate, sharing Lou's coffee. Hot chocolate for him. The morning warming up nice. Spring for real now, not just promises. Comfortable silence. The kind you can only have with someone when words aren't necessary. Finally, Tommy said, Dad? Yeah, buddy? Will Mom come back? I looked at him, 9 years old, still young enough to hope for things that weren't going to happen. Don't know, son. And he thought about that, took a sip of his cocoa. Do you want her to? Honest question deserved an honest answer. Part of me does. The part that remembers the good times. But the bigger part knows some things can't be fixed, only rebuilt. Like the engine? Like the engine. We rebuilt it good, he said. We did, he smiled. Yeah, we'll be all right. Yeah, buddy, we will. I looked around the garage, my father's sign freshly painted, tools organized on the pegboard, some his, some mine, some Tommy would use someday, Madison's mural on the wall. Marcus and Sarah's jackets hanging on hooks by the door, like they belonged here. The apprentice area set up in the corner where Pop used to keep parts, workbenches at the right height for kids, safety posters on the wall. Spring light streaming through the bay doors, the orange cat sleeping on a shop rag, coffee warming my hands. This was enough. The sound of that engine running smooth told me everything I needed to know about rebuilding. You strip it down to parts, you replace what's broken, you put it back together with care, and if you do it right, it runs better than before. Some things can't be fixed, but some things can be built new. I was learning the difference. Took me 67 years and one betrayal to understand what my father meant. He used to say, a man's measure isn't in what he keeps together, but in what he builds from what breaks. I'd nod like I understood, but I didn't. Not really. Thought he was talking about fixing engines or patching drywall. He was talking about life. Winter taught me about breaking. That cold February when I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't see past the next hour. When my boy wet the bed from stress and my daughter carried evidence she was too scared to share. When I sat in that garage apartment thinking about selling everything and disappearing. Spring taught me about building. Not fixing, building. There's a difference. You can't fix a marriage built on lies. Can't fix trust once it's shattered like that wine glass on the floor. Can't unhear your wife calling you dumb. Can't unsee those bank statements. Can't unknow that your whole life was someone else's exit strategy. But you can build something new from what's left. I built it with my brother's help, with Lou's coffee and Morrison's photographs, and Earl's quiet warning. With 12 people I thought were avoiding me, but were actually protecting me. With my daughter's courage and my son's questions, in a community that remembered what my father stood for, built it with honest work and public truth and the understanding that dignity isn't silence. It's standing, up even when your hands shake. Early June now. Summer coming in gentle. I'm watching from the office window while Tommy works on Mrs. Patterson's Accord. Oil change, brake inspection. He's doing it solo today. Marcus and Sarah helping, but Tommy's running the job. My father's tools in his hands. The same socket set Pop used in 1963. The boy's careful, methodical, checks his work twice, wipes up the spills. He'll be all right. The garage sign got repainted last month. Madison did it. Same design Pop used, but she added something at the bottom in fresh paint. And Son. Made me cry when I saw it. Good tears, though. The kind that means something's healed enough to hurt different. Lou's walking up the street now. Saturday morning, 9 o'clock, right on time. I can see the pastry box under her arm, 2 coffees in her hands. She'll sweep the floor while the kids work, organize receipts, tell stories about Pop that I've heard 100 times but need to hear again. Danny's coming tomorrow. Signed a lease on the old insurance office downtown, opening his practice next month. Said he wants to be close enough to have Sunday dinner with his brother. The orange cat's sleeping in a patch of sunlight by the bay door. Screen door creaks. Lou coming in. Morning, Howie. Morning, Lou. Life goes on. Different than before, but maybe better. Built on truth instead of comfort. On chosen family instead of blood obligation. On what I can teach instead of what I lost. Pop was right. A man's measure isn't what he keeps together. It's what he builds from what breaks, and what he passes down when he's gone. If you're listening to this, and you've been where I was, If someone's made you feel small, stolen from you, lied about you, I want you to know you're not alone. Your town might be watching closer than you think. Your kids might be braver than you know. And the truth, when you finally speak it, has more power than all the lies combined. Stand up, even when your hands shake. Build something new from what broke. And respect the people who taught you how.